He's like, where are we gonna build this thing? I never start with a plan. Well, I do. I kind of gave him a plan. It's gonna look like one of those old-fashioned TVs with the crooked legs. And it's gonna go right here. See where Dawn is? Hey guys, welcome back to the small cabin in the woods. Today, we are going to start the build on our very own guest suite. A forest cube, if you will. It's going to be a box suspended in midair in the forest. Very majestic, futuristic, neat. Did I say neat? It's gonna be neat little structure. I've always kind of wanted to build one of these, and it's gonna solve a couple of problems that we have. And primarily is when you have guests over, especially ones that snore, when they're in the small cabin, they tend to keep everybody awake. So the idea is to build another little structure, very small, the right size. We're gonna build it the right size, and it's going to be a little retreat, a meditation cube, if you will. A nice right-sized box in the forest that somebody could be comfortable with. Maybe some like quiet place to retreat to, get away from the hustle and bustle or your snoring bunkmate. Call it the forest cube. The YouTube cube? The YouTube cube. So we gotta move some stuff. There's no trees we have to remove. It's all just kind of dead. No problem. Only solutions. Now comes the fun part of doing layout. We've got a nice clean area mapped out for this thing. This is the rough dimensions of this forest cube. This thing is going to be about 8 feet. It's going to be an 8-foot cube. This cube is going to have splayed out legs, and in order to do that, you got to use a lot of math, or we make our cube 8 feet right now, and we use this as a template guide of where we dig our posts. Let's do that right now. You drive the back. Okay. So go that way. Right there. We're gonna square it up with our kitty corner measurements in order to make sure it's square. Because you want a square cube. I can already see how spacious this cube's gonna be. We gotta dig holes. I love digging holes. Why Dawn's here, because we're digging holes. Now that we have our post holes dug, we can find our legs, our posts. We're gonna find some cedar posts in order to make legs out of them. I've got just the ticket. Forest where trees have been growing for hundreds of years. There's nothing that can get to the forest floor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna harvest a couple of those to do some selective thinning, they call it. When I first bought this property, I had the forest management technician out to look at it, and he advised that I cut out 3 of the 4 trees that are standing here. So there's of the cedars, if there's a thicket of 4 trees, he wants to cut 3 out of the 4 trees. Now I'm a little reluctant to do that. I'm just gonna cut as I need trees, but I understand the practice. It's to increase light to the forest floor, basically encourage new growth. It's very dark in here. There's nothing anything can eat down below. As predicted, it's hung up in the trees. Because they're too close together. All right, let's go get the tractor. Well, that was a successful trip to the lumber store. We've got ourselves 4 posts, or legs. Look at those legs. Hopefully they didn't skip leg day. Don, you want to drag these over there?
You betcha. Get at it.
Watch, I'll hold the camera, Don will lift the log. I'm kidding. Let's go, let me put this down. I'm gonna give Don a hand the log. I got the
I'm
down
gonna turn this way.
Yep.
Oh, there is water in there.
That was cool. Those are fancy legs. So there is an ancient technique of burning charring the posts before putting them in the ground. I don't know if that's a regional thing, but around here, where they build pole barns and such, they use cedar posts. And I've been advised that the best way to preserve them is to peel the bark. That's it. Peel the bark, set them in the hole. There's barns around here in my area that are 100+ years old that are basically cedar posts that have barks have been peeled and it's been set in the ground, nothing else. Cedar is naturally a preservative wood. It's like a pressure treated wood. It likes it in the ground. So we're just gonna peel the bark off the post, set them in the hole, and 100 years from now, we're gonna check to see if this thing's still standing. Let's check these in 20 years.
20 years we'll do.
All right, YouTube, remind me, 20 years, check these posts. Cedar rope, delicious. That's actually pretty good. So satisfying. Here. There are lots of right ways to do this. One of them would be like a draw knife, which is they got the handles on the sides and you pull it down the log and you pull all the bark off. I don't have one of those. I'm gonna use a dull chisel. How's your dull chisel working?
Great.
Look at that, using what we have. Look at this stuff. Look at that, we could tie it all together. You know what? The what was that guy, the wooded beardsman guy? He ate this stuff, eh? The cambium layer of the tree. I don't think it's the right season to eat tree. So satisfying. It's the latest fashion for fall. Cedar bark scarf. Cedar bark scarf. Is it good? I wonder. There's a clean spot. It's not terrible. Not bad. Yep. Down and around. Oh, look at that. Perfect. I can't even hold on to the thing.
I know. We should try climbing them.
Nope. Get ready? Nah. Lift this up and then slide your post over. And then we're gonna lift. We're gonna carry it back this way. Just move your post. I want to walk over. Okay, that'll. Talk about progress for one day. That's being optimistic. We notched the top posts in order for them to sit in the little saddle. So they've got at least 1.5 inches sitting over here. And that'll support the weight. But if you look at the posts themselves, they're splayed out on some sort of an angle leaning in. So they're not straight. They're not supposed to be straight. They're supposed to lean in at all 4 corners. See? Picture an old-fashioned TV set. Otherwise you would need diagonal bracing in order for us to not pancake. Hopefully we build this thing and we don't pancake. But look at the view. Look at the view. Isn't that this thing's gonna be awesome. I'm excited for this. As Don's digging. Don's digging. We're gonna backfill. You got a shovel. You can't just admire. We just gotta keep working. So Don's shoveling, I should help him. We're just gonna backfill the holes and we're gonna pound it in. Basically make it real tight in there so our post doesn't move. I like it. And if you can see back here is the pond. That's gonna be a great view. Maybe a hot tub under there? Hey, what do you think? Who knows? Maybe a hot tub over there. I should stop spinning you guys around. You guys probably don't like that. Okay, we're gonna backfill, get a good night rest, and we're gonna start this again tomorrow. hard to illustrate how splayed out they are. So that's acting like a tripod, but it's 4. Is that a 4-pod? It's acting like a 4-pod in the forest. Acceptable level for cube in the forest. Flush mouth box bead with a bolt all the posts to the ringer. This is a ringer. It's not really a ringer. It's a ringer, but it's going to be a box beam. So we're going to bolt that guy together, and that's going to give us some sort of lateral support so we don't pancake on this bad boy. And yeah, go from there. Sometimes you just need more power, or in this case, electrical power. So I went and grabbed the generator. I've got myself my Makita. This is my mixer. Usually I mix drywall mud with that bad boy. So that guy is like 1/3 of a horsepower or something like that. It's gonna make short work of these holes. We're gonna run that guy to power the drill to make all my holes, because battery power just ain't cutting it. I like how the only spot in this whole bush that is bright is right here. It's like being on the surface of the sun. You got like, it's like, whoa, look at this. It's gonna be a nice view once we got the cabin built. You're gonna be standing up there, you're gonna be sitting in the bunkie, and it's gonna be very picturesque overlooking the pond. The morning sun coming up over the horizon. Very majestic. It's gonna be a neat treehouse. So Kevin, why are you using such big bolts for? Well, I went to the hardware store to get the right size one, meaning the right length ones. And apparently stuff's gone up in price. They wanted nearly $6 a piece for them. And if you're doing math, that's a lot of money. So I had these laying around. These are bolts that a piece of industrial equipment came in on, like the 6x6 were bolted together with some 2x something or others. Anyways, and I saved them all. And I was like, I'm never gonna use a bolt this size. And it's true, I'm probably never gonna use a bolt this size unless I was building this thing. But, so this hardware is really expensive once you start, you know, getting a lot of them. $6 is not bad when you gotta buy 8 of them. I mean, I got 8, so anyways. That's why I'm using large bolts like this, and I find the best way to get them in the hole is to swing with reckless abandon. One more. Eight oversized bolts in place. All I gotta do is put the nuts and the washers on. Now that we've got all the fiddly stuff done, meaning the setting the posts and the beams and the legs and carriage bolts and anchor bolts and all those other things, we're gonna do our blocking. And what the blocking is basically boards that go every 16 inches from 2x8 to a 2x8, and that's gonna give us a little bit of rigidity. It's going to basically consolidate our 2x8 box beam. Building the proper foundation for this cube, because falling 8 feet out of the air is not going to be fun. Yeah, we got the generator fired up, we got the compressor fired up. We're gonna get our nail gun fired up, because putting these guys in by hand is gonna take a long time. So we got some power. We got some proper framing with proper tools. Let's bang these guys up. So we're deciding how big the opening to this cube, because there's going to be a floor hatch here. So you're going to come up a ladder, you're going to open a hatch, and the hatch originally was thinking about 4 feet in order to get paneled goods up. And I was thinking to myself, well, we got a giant window at the front, so we'll bring our panel goods through the front, like the drywall, if we got flooring, or if we need sheet goods or whatever, like a table. The furniture itself in this cube, because it's such a tight space, it's about 64 square feet. That's the outside dimensions. The inside is going to be slightly, probably 60 square feet. Everything's going to be custom built. We're going to have wall-hung Murphy beds, basically fold down on hinges, so you can just stow those away when you're not using them. Little desk will build probably out of some live edge wood. A chair will comfortably fit through this hole. I'll comfortably fit through that hole. And if you can't fit through that hole, you ain't going in. Just give me a bunch of them and then I'll nail it in. Going to be a door jamb that's going to sit, that's going to prevent the hatch from falling down. That's going to be squared up a little bit more than this one that's not so square. This is rough framing. It doesn't have to be, well, it should be perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect because the trim carpenter comes in and trims this thing out squarer than it already is. These are joist hangers. They're like garters for joists. They hold up the joist. They're structural. Use nails. They're 18-penny nails. They go in every single hole. Don't use screws. Screws do not have structural shear strength. You got to use nails in every little hole. That stuff's OSB. You guys don't like me when I use OSB. Oriented strand board. You can use plywood or you can use this stuff. It's much cheaper. And for the amount of time it's actually going to be in the rain, it's perfectly good stuff. We're starting the OSB plywood argument. This OSB in Canada anyways, it's coated with like a wax coating and it's designed to keep the water off of it while you're building. Would you spend more money in your house to buy? Would you do it with plywood? I'd probably go with plywood in my house for a situation like this where it's 2 sheets, literally 2 sheets of OSB. You know what? I would go with this. When you frame, you've got a couple of options. The easiest option is to put everything together on the ground, put your insulation in, even if you can, put your plywood on, and then once you're done that, you just stand it up. You make sure everything is square, obviously, and then when you stand it up, you basically plumb the walls, and you're good for your finished material. Ready? Yep. It's not coming at you, is it? I realized that either I'm not young enough or I'm not strong enough, or I don't know, maybe it's because it's up in the air. It's hard to build a wall on a little tiny platform and stand it up by yourself. So I'm not going to do that anymore. I've learned my lesson on this wall that we just did. It's questioning all sorts of things when I was doing that. It's up, it's secured, it's not going to go anywhere. But what I'm going to do on this back wall here, looks like a giant picture window. I'm going to stick frame it. And what stick framing means is that I'm going to basically put individual stuff up, level it off, and nail it off, and then I'm going to sheet the outside afterwards. And that you can do by yourself. It just takes a little bit more time, a little more effort, but can be done. You can do it alone. It's easier with your buddy. You can hold it just a smidge.
Yeah, I got it.
We are coming right along on this build. As you can see, I've put some, I see the framed door. This is the door. and this is the window. So the door is very narrow. I have a special, it's actually going to be a reclaimed garage door with windows in it. So I'm going to cut it down, and that's going to be my door to the outside. And then there's going to be another, this is going to be a functional window. It's going to open. And then where you can see is there's a giant window going here. So yeah, just move right along. I might have prematurely put pants on. It's not warm, but heck, it's humid. It's feels very tropical around here. So I'm gonna go put my shorts back on. I'm gonna get back to sheeting. My unorthodox use of a chainsaw, I think, spawned from an early age. I think about probably 6, 7, 8 years old. I was growing up, and I remember the house next door was being built, and the framer, I remember his name was Cliff. And Cliff used a chainsaw every opportunity he had. He was doing fascia, chainsaw. He was framing rafters, chainsaw. He was cutting out windows, chainsaw. Every single time he had the opportunity to use a chainsaw, he used it. And I thought, that's gotta be the most efficient way to cut something. It does a pretty good job, as long as your chain's sharp. See, we got our doors. Got our front window. We're just gonna, there's no ceiling yet. So we just fired up the compressor, fired up the generator. Now we're going to frame out the ceiling. The roof's gonna be flat. Now I can hear them already. Why are you doing a flat roof? Well, I got some special product that I'm gonna try. We don't have a ladder. How do I get out of here?
Swing in the window.
I'm not swinging it. Should always wear a mask when you do insulation. Or any construction, really, because you should use safety glasses too. Because we're going for the 4-season warm cube, today is the, I guess, buttoning up the underside. We ended up picking up a bag of insulation, some Roxel. I like Roxel. Some Roxel insulation. We're gonna insulate the underside of the cube in order to keep us nice and toasty. We went with the R14 vat, and we're gonna leave it lower to the side, and we're gonna leave airspace underneath the subfloor, and that should provide us with adequate amount of insulation type of situation. So you can see underside. We could fill it with, like, you know, R22, I think it says R22, which is the 6-inch stuff, but instead we're going to use the R14, which is a anything. Anyway, did you know about insulation? There's a depreciating rate of return, and anything above R12, the graph starts to go down. You should look it up. It's interesting. I've done a lot of R value looking. But again, insulation is a funny thing. You know, you should always go with as much insulation as you can afford. I feel like I want to talk a little bit more about insulation. Insulation is only good as your weakest link, meaning if you insulate with an R14 bat, but you leave little gaps around stud spaces and it's not evenly fit, your insulation value drops significantly. And so it's really important to make sure it's a tight fit, tight but snug fit, not compressed. You want it loosely in there in order to keep the cold and the hot out. Air sealing is also important, and that's what we're going to do. The Kerdi, that Schluter Kerdi system is going to air seal this guy pretty much airtight. For the exterior door on this guy, so I got a hole up there I got to fill. So that's going to be the door to the ultimate wraparound deck at some point. So to make it kind of like a little boutique hotel, I am going to employ a old garage door panel. So I've just got to cut it down to size in order to do so, because it is aluminum. It doesn't like to be cut. It's not about the saw, it's about the blade. So if you take the blade on a traditional circular saw and you turn the blade backwards, that gives you the ability to cut anything. Well, maybe not anything, but it does cut aluminum quite well when you turn the blade backward. Wear eye protection and ear protection, because it's loud. Take a look at that. That's a fine door. I wouldn't even want to know how much a door like this would cost if you had to buy it. That's amazing. So you got thermal panes, those will clean up nice. And that's going to be on the back. Add some light. Keep some heat in, some cold out. I like it. Just got to hang the door now. Feel that airflow. Oh. This is a door to the porch, and this hatch area here is going to be the regular access to the cube. I'm just about to install my window, but first I want to waterproof the opening because it's flush, there's no overhang, there's nothing to keep the water out. What I've done is actually used a product called Blueskin. I happen to have a roll of it kicking around on the back 40. It's seen better days. It's actually soaking wet. But what this stuff is it's almost like a self-healing membrane. If you poke holes in it, it kind of self-heals itself. You try to cut it and it glues itself back together. So it's going to waterproof the opening. I've got it all the way around, the opening. And then I got my piece of glass. This piece of glass was a thermal pane. It had two pieces of glass with, you know, the inert gas inside, argon or whatever. It was fogged. What I did was I actually took my knife and I split the glass. So I've got a single pane of glass. It's extra thick. I think it'll do its job. This stuff's great. Blueskin. It's pricey, but it does the job. You can see there where the window is. You don't have any sharp edges or metal digging into the glass. Hopefully that'll prevent it from exploding. Got the flashing. I'm gonna caulk it from the outside and then parge up the rest of it. That's a big window. It's a 4-foot window. The good thing is I have a spare. I have a spare if that thing breaks. Now that we've got all the plywood up, I'm going to waterproof it using something a little unorthodox. I'm using Kerdi Membrane. This is a Schluter product designed to waterproof showers. I've got a little bit of it left over. A lot of it left over. This is a membrane, and it's basically like wallpaper, really thick wallpaper, and you apply it with thin set with a notch trowel, and you basically embed it into the plywood, and it provides a waterproof membrane on the outside of this thing. Now, so this cube ultimately is going to be parged with concrete, so it's going to look like a big concrete block. Like if I do a custom shower in somebody's home, I'm using this Kerdi stuff. This is great stuff. I've never had a callback. I've never had a leaky shower. You know, you use it on the floors, the walls. You're going curbless showers. If you're going, you know, a tub with a tile surround, this is a great, you know, for tile backer and stuff like that. This is the stuff to use. This is the Kerdi Membrane, and yeah, we're gonna install it on our forest cube and see how it works. I don't want to leak a cube. It should be overlapped. I believe 3 inches overlap. So what we're doing is we're cutting this a little bit long. Our cube is 8 feet by 8 feet. So what we're doing is cutting it 8'6", and we're gonna put it on the roof. And then it's going to overlap the roof a little bit. So we're basically making a shingle or a flashing. The manufacturer's recommendation is 2-inch overlap on seams. We're going to go 4 because it's on my roof. And they don't really spec forest cubes on the instruction guide. I guess in this situation, we're just going to think outside the box a little. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trowel it out with the flat side of the trowel. That's the flat side. And it's important to have all your notches go the same way, meaning you're not going like this and changing directions. And the reason being is because when you lay your material in, you want to be able to crush that little notch. So everything crushes the same way, but if you got one going this way and that way, it doesn't crush evenly, especially when you're laying tile. I'm going to roll this membrane out. And then we use our Grout Float. In the directions they say use a drywall trowel. I guess I could have used a drywall trowel. But you're basically pushing the Kerdi membrane into the mud. All the way around, basically working the air bubbles out. Rinse and repeat, do that for the entire building. Well, they don't recommend. Well, I don't know, not that they don't recommend using it on buildings. I just don't think they've. I don't think they've thought of that. I've got little corner blocks for it, and then once we fold that over and stick it to the wall, there's no way water can get in there. Very waterproof system. I love this system, especially for showers. Maybe not forced cubes, but definitely this stuff is the go-to for showers. If you're gonna do showers, this is the stuff to use. I'll set you up. You guys can watch a wall chunk. We got a couple more strips to go on the walls. I think it takes 3 strips to do one side of the wall, so there's a little bit left to set this guy. At this stage of the game, you might be thinking, if you're doing a project yourself, you're like at the grind and you're like, oh, why did I start this thing? It's been a haul. Like it's taken a long time. We're gonna get through it. This is the stage where you're kind of like, we're gonna do some parging. We're gonna parge this guy here. We're gonna parge it with parging mix. I don't know if anybody's ever done that to Kerdi Membrane before. We're gonna give it a whirl. I got some pre-mixed parging mix. I'm gonna add a little bit of binder to it, and we're gonna parge it on the wall. But first, safety eventually. They well, not they, one guy, maybe one guy. Was it 2 guys? I don't know. Mask. Even though if I stand downwind, you always want, you know, your mask to protect you from fine concrete particles. This is a P100 mask. This will pretty much catch any of those little fine particulates that may want to inhale. Should probably wear safety glasses, gloves, safety shoes. There's lots of things I should do. You should do them too. Don't do what I do. The good part about that is I only have to do that 4 times. And every time I bought a scaffold, I think to myself, these are kind of like monkey bars. It's fitting I have a banana today. Build my monkey bars in the forest and butter my cube. Quack, quack. Quack, quack, quack. I think it's a good thing that the ducks have decided that they don't necessarily like me anymore. They still do. They still come to me. They're getting more independent. They seem to be doing their duck thing. I don't have to teach them how to swim. That's a good thing. So yeah, so they're just hanging out in the pond. Looks like they're foraging for some bugs and sand and all that sort of stuff. Duck house is still very duck house. As you can see, I have beached the duck house. I found they were eating the styrofoam. Eek. So yeah, I took that away from them very quickly. So yeah, they're just they're hanging out with me today, just doing their duck thing. Ideally, when everything regrows around here, which it will in the spring, the ducks and wildlife and whatnot, that's gonna come to that pond. It's gonna be fun to watch from the cube. So I've developed an interesting technique, and I'm not sure if this is the did I reinvent the wheel? So I'm using the whole hawk as the trowel, and it's working really well. I just want to show you. This is kind of cool. Because this stuff is really goopy, I've basically used it on the hawk, and then if I place the hawk on the ceiling and kind of use it as a trowel, it all stays on. And then I reposition the blob and then repeat. You don't lose any. That's impressive. I see a lot of parged ceilings in garages, and I'm always curious how they did it. I imagine they did it like this. Big hawk, trowel, smooth it out. This stuff's not overly sticky. It's parging, right? It doesn't really want to be upside down. A couple more details. Let that dry for a bit. The underside is done. Maybe, what do you think? Eh? Hi, buddy. Oh, buddy. Yeah. You let it set up a little bit, and then you knock it down with either a piece of, I use a piece of styrofoam. They say you can use a paintbrush, a wetted paintbrush to knock it down. I prefer the swirl method with a piece of styrofoam. So You gotta let it set up because it is very whooshy. Well, hello! So this is the entrance to the cube. It's going to be from below. So this is going to be on hinges at some point. But yeah, this is the ultimate access. The back door on the cube is designed to get on the side ports that's not quite built yet. Well guys, we're obviously not finished on this one, so you gotta stay tuned for the next time when we finish the inside. I think I'm gonna do some really interesting stuff in here, kind of like a boutique hotel sort of vibe. It's got drywall tray ceiling, it's gonna glow, there's gonna be a little mini stove, it's on its way. A little bed, a little sitting area, a little prep area. Gonna be really, really fancy for in the bush. It's gonna have all the amenities of home in a forest cube. So, join me on the next one.
Hi, who are you?
I'm Kevin.
I want to stay up here.
You're gonna live in the treehouse now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You see me, Dad?
Okay.
Go down.
All right.